Hello, hello. Hi, hi. Marlene and Ruth and Tina and Anna and Joanne. Yay. And Amy. Awesome. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. And with that, let's all just take a moment to arrive here. Yeah, so just settling in. And as we often do before we start our Dharma talk, we just take a moment to connect, to check in, to arrive. And that happens by us just really coming into the body and just letting yourself meet whatever you're aware of in your heart and in your mind with kindness, with friendliness. You don't have to like what's here, or you might love what's here. But regardless, as we just check in and we sense what's true here in our hearts and our minds, closing the gap between where we are and where we think we should be. The way that we close the gap is by touching in without evaluation. And then noticing from that what your intention is, what it is that you're most wanting to feel or receive from our time together. Yeah, what drew you here, what brought you here to this gathering, to this Dharma talk and meditation on unmasking or unearthing Buddha nature. Yeah. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and you can put in the chat how you're doing. What are you noticing about your experience? What's present with you? And what is your intention? Welcome, Marilyn. As you're doing that, just a reminder, our talk is about 25 to 30 minutes, and then we sit for about that same amount of time. Really appreciate staying the whole time. And also, and then also, whether your camera's on or off, it does make a difference, your full presence. So committing in whatever way you can to not multitasking during this time, really being here and now so we can create the container that amplifies and enhances our mindfulness. Let me see, rushing this morning, Alan. Yeah, a little edgy. Yeah, wanting to regroup and settle. Great. Yeah, good. Glad you're here. Feeling an inside rumbling, Anna. Ooh, I like your way of putting that, although it might not be pleasant. Numbing or rumbling. No, rumbling. Wanting connection and settling. Good. Yes, Anna. Feeling some resistance today. Yeah, intention, belonging, connection, and Buddha nature. Yes, Marlene. Feeling frazzled, Joanne. Yes. Tina, the subject matter is most triggering to be seen or not to be seen. I'm here today just to feel your groove and wisdom and the wisdom of the group. Yeah, but the subject matter has been upfront and triggering. Okay, yeah. Amy, I'm a bit overwhelmed, have a lot happening in my life, a lot of upheaval and uncertainty. My intention is to be with myself and hold myself. Beautiful. Yeah, I'm so glad you're here, Amy. Welcome. Need calm, Joanne. Wow, right? It's so we can see our connections to each other in the chat. There's a lot of similar themes running through. I'm feeling the chaos, yeah, so around me, asking my brain to figure it all out. Yeah, you're noticing your mind trying to figure it all out. My intention is to connect with an ease and feeling of it's all okay. Yeah. Ruth, I am feeling a little agitated. For me, this is typical. I want to have more understanding. Looking forward to our meditation. Good. Yes, beautiful. And so it is with all of our intentions. And the way we work with intention is we clarify it and then we let it go. We just, and then we trust, which is a big part of what we're going to be unpacking today around Buddha nature, is really this trust in our own experience. And yeah, so let's dive in. I have a lot of quotes today to share with you from John Wellwood, who is a depth psychologist and Buddhist practitioner. And so something that he said is to allow yourself your own experience is the greatest act of self-love. At any moment, whatever we are experiencing, only one of two things is ever happening. Either we are being with what is, or else we are resisting what is. Being with what is means letting ourselves have and feel our experience, just as it is right now. This is where genuine creativity, health, and communication, as well as spiritual power, arise from. So let's talk about what is Buddha nature, or the radiant self, because we also, you'll hear true self, authentic self, Buddha nature. I think they all, radiant self, they all point to the same thing, that within each of us. Okay, so, and as I say this, we get to practice having confidence that this means us too. Within each of us is an unlimited and inexhaustible source of qualities such as kindness, compassion, peacefulness, and equanimity. These are inexhaustible, part of each one of us. Okay, there's this source, and we call it your Buddha nature. And probably the most essential way that we unmask our Buddha nature, we don't have to get Buddha nature. What a relief. You don't have to try it all, actually. It's as plain as the nose on your face. It's as plain as your breath. But what is true for most of us is we don't realize it. We're not aware. We haven't consciously connected with Buddha nature, though we've all experienced aspects of it in our lives and in our practice. And I know for me, it's sort of like, well, let me share a little bit more before I say that. So much of it has to do with the view that we choose. Okay, so let's talk about the two views when I say views. Okay, so, well, the truth is, this is the truth that trusting our Buddha nature rests on. You're perfect just as you are in this very moment. You're perfect. But that's one view, and that's the view that we practice. And I'll go more into this. But the view that it doesn't seem true for us, because the view that we are most identified with when we're in dis-ease is we feel like there's something wrong. Yeah, we feel like there's something wrong with us. We feel like we're fundamentally flawed. And this is an unconscious view that we often don't question. I've been practicing, and some of you too, like we've got, lots of years of practice under our belt. I know some of you have been practicing with me ever since I started teaching publicly, years ago. And so it's not like one of these, Buddha nature is not a state of being that we acquire and then we just stay in it. And this view that we're perfect just as we are, this is a view that's practiced. It needs to be practiced and continually remembered. The given is that we're going to fall asleep many, many times a day. and kind of get lost in the stream of I'm fundamentally flawed. Yeah, I shouldn't feel this way. It shouldn't be this way. And so that's actually the view that we're letting go of when um, when we're on the journey of becoming more conscious of our true nature, our radiant self, or our Buddha nature. So this view that we're fundamentally flawed is one that we can learn to question. And if we don't, we'll use our practice as a form of aggression. And this happens all the time in communities of, spiritual communities, all kinds of spiritual communities. We may use our practices to what John Wellwood coined as a spiritual bypass. I'll talk more about spiritual bypass in a moment, but let me unpack more about Buddha nature. It's not a better way to play the same old game. It's not a better way to play the same old game. It's an entirely different game. Okay, it's because it invites us to explore our experience in a way that doesn't involve evaluation. So rather than correcting what's wrong, we're noticing more what has always been right. So we exchange, I've been talking about this a lot in yin class, exchanging evaluation for curiosity. So signs that we're evaluating, usually it's like the body tightens in some way. We're preoccupied with having the thing that we think will complete us. We're subtly and not so subtly trying to do our meditation practice or do our life, right? We got to try really hard or kind of try, we got to bring it, and there is an element of that in practice in terms of but what we're doing more than bypassing our current state in order to elevate to some sublime state is we're turning towards our experience. We're befriending it. So let me talk about what spiritual bypassing is. It's a term, and I'm quoting John Wellwood directly here. It's a term, he says, it's a term I coined to describe a process I saw happening in the Buddhist community I was in and also in myself. Although most of us, and this is not just, any spiritual community can probably relate to this. Although most of us were sincerely trying to work on ourselves, I noticed a widespread tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. When we are spiritually bypassing, we often use the goal of awakening or liberation to try to rise above the raw and messy side of our humanness before we have fully faced and made peace with it. We may also use our notion of absolute truth to disparage or dismiss relative human needs, feelings, psychological problems, relational difficulties, and developmental deficits. I see this as a basic hazard of the spiritual path, and that spirituality does involve a vision of going beyond our current karmic situation. It's in relationships that are, he continues, it's in our relationships that our unresolved psychological issues show up most intensely. That's because psychological wounds are always relational. They form in and through our relationships with our early caregivers. The core psychological wound, so prevalent in the modern world, forms out of not feeling loved or intrinsically lovable as we are. Inadequate love or attunement is shocking. Inadequate love or attunement is shocking and traumatic for a child's developing and highly sensitive nervous system. It damages our capacity to value ourselves, which is also the basis for valuing others. I call this the relational wound or the wound of the heart. This is why, I mentor, I coach folks, individually in practice, and I train people to do it too, because part of the reason is, it's all relational. like the core wound is a relational wound. It has to be healed in relationship. Like, I think of Alan, like when we're therapists, too, or, this is what we're doing. And a lot of what we're doing is reflecting back that which our students or our clients have been unconsciously, a lot of times is unconsciously judging, pushing down. It's hard to love. We can't love it all on our own. Because we're pack animals, we need a sense that it is lovable. And the only way that happens is in relationship. For example, when I started practice, I started because I was having panic attacks. And I had had panic attacks on and off for my whole life. So it wasn't like I was familiar with them, but they were becoming kind of more debilitating and affecting my work and my relationships, my life. It was being impacted so much so that it was too painful to just keep playing the same old game, right? Pain can be really purposeful and potent when we turn towards it and we seek relief from it, which is compassion in action. And we'll talk more about that. That's a component of our Buddha nature. So I started working with my teacher, Dr. Andrew Shugio Bonichi. And I remember telling him, I'd be fine, if I wasn't so afraid. Like if I didn't have this fear, this terror, really, it was terror, I wouldn't have any problem. And he said, oh yes, okay, so what we get to do, or what we can do, how is it to include fear in your practice? And I've shared this story before, but I share it a lot because I remember it just being a pivotal moment in my own practice of realizing that my entire life had been like I'd been bypassing my fear, my terror, my wounding, my relational wounding that was giving rise to intense fear that was covering up more nuanced emotions that I just didn't have a name for. And so it was just coming through as this sort of blanket of fear and terror. I was afraid I was afraid to see people. I was afraid to take a shower. Like I was just afraid of myself. It was weird. It was very painful. And when he said that to me, I realized that, I've always been fighting this feeling, this familiar feeling. I just fight it all the time. And something broke open in me. And what I realize now as I look back is that was like a breaking open to my Buddha nature. And part of that for me involved facing my fear. I couldn't do it alone. It was too overwhelming. His encouragement helped me befriend it. It was less scary now. Now it was something more workable. Like I could take it to work with me. I could take it in the shower with me. I could live with it. It was no longer an indication that I was fundamentally flawed. It became part of my practice. And in the early days of my own practice with others, the reigning wound that people came to me with was anxiety, fear. Yeah, still to this day, right? Because I know that place really well, having experienced it, and being able to sit with it without judgment is really a superpower, for us healers. So let's talk about some qualities of Buddha nature. Now that we've unpacked what it is, sort of, and like also what it isn't, which is spiritual bypassing. We don't make ourselves wrong for spiritually bypassing either, by the way. It's unavoidable. And I don't know, it can't really, it's so hard to see what we're bypassing without another human. We can't see what we can't see. So a good spiritual friend or a therapist or a coach, necessary to unwind the relational trauma that gives rise to the disease that a lot of us experience in social situations, especially. So qualities of Buddha nature. Um, Awareness, duh. But no, I mean awareness as effortless presence. Because awareness never changes and it doesn't need to be improved. We can learn, though, to recognize it. We can learn to recognize our own awareness. You can't hold it, but you don't have to effort it. It never goes away. Right now, be aware of the sounds in the room that you're in, just the sounds around you. Now, notice that you don't have to try to hear them. I mean, this is given that we have okay hearing, but it's just awareness of sound is just here, yeah? Effortless. So, like sensing, oh, yeah, there is this awareness that's always here. I can't not be aware. You try, don't be aware. and usually what we notice is it's impossible. So we learn to recognize this effortless presence and trust it. It's always in operation. And the next piece from there's effortless presence or awareness. We also have compassion as being a quality of Buddha nature. And our effortless presence is imbued with it. We don't have to cultivate it. We don't have to, though we can, yeah? Like in metta practice, in a karuna practice, we cultivate compassion. But we also need to understand that it's inherently part of awareness. It's part and parcel of it. Anytime, check this out, anytime we shift our posture, say because we're uncomfortable, or we seek therapy to heal, that impulse to feel better is compassion. That's why that line from Serena Sargadatta I find so healing when he says, your constant flight from pain and search for pleasure is a sign of love you bear for yourself. Yeah, we get into spiritual practice and oftentimes we start judging that, right? Like we'll start to judge it and we deny ourselves the comfort that we seek. That's actually a spiritual bypass, trying to be a better person, trying not to have discomfort. It's like, or the fact that we scratched an itch in some way means that we're doing the practice wrong. And so I like this idea of learning to see the ways, the impulse to feel better, learning to regard that as compassion. Now, how we do it, right, can be unskillful, how we scratch the itch, so to speak. But that urge itself is compassion. So we have awareness, we have compassion, we have love. And to unpack that more, if you feel the impulse to move away from discomfort or to avoid anything unpleasant, our practice is to just notice that. And that feeling is compassion. And then in that we can sense, and everyone, let's do this together right now. We can sense our wish to experience contentment, happiness, or wholeness. Just taking a moment, all of us, to feel into that wish, like, yes, I want to be happy. I want to be content. I want to feel whole. I know for me, it's like, I want to feel safe. I want to feel secure. And as we do that, as we acknowledge that longing, that subtle movement towards happiness by acknowledging the longing for it is love. There's a great book called Love 2.0. And that's a great, like, just she dissects love and the markers, the somatic markers of love. Love is absolutely relational. We don't feel love when we're on our devices, doing parasocial relating, like through social media. Love isn't cultic, it's impossible because we're pack animals, relational beings. It actually needs to happen in present moment time with another being in that like relational field. We need to actually be in real time relationship with someone to experience love. Which is, a good thing to think about in terms of our actions, what we do in the world, that we're spending time with folks that we love being with or enjoy their company. This helps to cultivate love and safety and security. As pack animals, we feel safer together. Wisdom is another component. It's actually the last component that we're going to talk about. And so wisdom is the constant companion of all of the searching. At some deep level, we know when we're looking in the right place. And when we're indulging in an old habit, we know when we're off track. We don't always listen to it, but it's there. Yeah, you can kind of sense, there's something in you that sort of knows this is on track, this is off track. Like that's wisdom. That's our wisdom. We don't need to judge ourselves when we don't follow the voice of wisdom. We can encourage ourselves to follow it and then congratulate ourselves when we do. We're like a bird flying from tree to tree looking for our nest. We know home when we find it. And so long as we're not there, we know to keep looking. So when we start to shift from doing to being, we start to feel that sense of finally being home. We can let go of the search and relax. No one needs to tell us this when it happens. The intuitive knowing, that intuitive knowing is wisdom. Every thought, every emotion, every impulse is rooted in that wisdom. We just need to recognize it. So today, as we cultivate Buddha nature, the radiant self in meditation, the practice here is really about simply being, not even doing any technique in our meditation, which a lot of times when I teach mindfulness, we're cultivating insight. And so there is a purposeful direction of we draw the attention towards certain things in a particular way until we open to spacious awareness. And that spacious awareness is a practice of recognizing and trusting more and more our Buddha nature or our radiant self. And so with that, we're going to enter into we're going to call it the simply being meditation. We could also think about it as non-dual, or in Vipassana, this is Vipassana, the essence of just wide open, spacious awareness, being aware of awareness itself. And just noticing whatever is arising inside of this awareness. But we're not, there's no effort even to draw the attention to the breath as an anchor, which is typically, a practice that we do. And so as we settle in, I encourage you to just, get comfortable. You might adjust your posture. And at this juncture, I like to mention that your donations, these are freely offered, these Dharma talks and meditations, and your donations really make a difference. And so I really appreciate your donations. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And want to mention that here. Also want to mention that if you want to dive deeper into this realm of like unhooking from that tendency to judge yourself as fundamentally flawed, right? And how that tendency tends to dim our light and shut us down. I have, if you want to, really cultivate Buddha nature and the radiant self for 5 days, we're doing that on Monday, is the start of Radiant. Even if you've done Radiant and On the Rise before, it's the same, but it's different. You'll see. So I'll drop the link in the chat for Radiant for you to join that if you haven't already. I encourage everyone here to do that. It's totally free and it starts on Monday. The lessons are emailed to you, and I will come through and do live classes also. If you know someone who could use this, please share it with them. And we'll have just to support as many people as possible while I'm doing this for 5 days. And again, I'll drop that in the chat. So let's go ahead and if awareness, compassion, and wisdom were qualities we could attain or develop, it would make perfect sense to do something to cultivate them. But we don't have to cultivate them because they are part of our basic nature. We already have them. Any attempt to change, fix, or improve what's happening in the present moment reinforces the old belief that we're missing something. On the other hand, if we do nothing, we're right where we started, nothing will change. The key to this paradox is recognition. Buddha nature isn't something we do, but it is something we need to recognize. So with that, allowing awareness to settle even more in here. And we'll just enter into silence together. I'll offer some teaching, some instruction here and there in between a lot of silence. Forget about enlightenment. Just sit down wherever you are and listen to the wind singing in your veins. Feel the love, the longing, and the fear in your bones. Open your heart to who you are right now, not the saint you're striving to become, not who someone else thinks you should be, but the being right here before you, around you, inside you. You see all of you as holy. You're already more and less than you'll ever know. Breathe out, touch in, let go. We don't need to make meaning out of everything. Just for now, we can let it come and go, being aware of the coming and the going. That's enough. Of sound, of sensation, of emotion, of thought. No need to make meaning of it. One moment, awareness is drawn towards a sound. The next, it might be drawn towards a restlessness or relief. We're practicing just being aware of what awareness is noticing. We can even become aware of the inner narration, the way that the thinking mind is summarizing and giving us sort of a play by play of how we're doing, how we're measuring up, what we should worry about, what we should be excited about. Becoming aware of the inner narrator. Nothing to do. Just to simply be here with whatever you're noticing is enough. And there's no right way to practice, so we can just trust that we're doing it right. We can allow the mind that tries so hard to care for us by preparing for a future moment. We can let that just be recognized. Letting it fold into our practice. We don't have to stop anything. We don't have to start anything. Whatever this is, we can rest with it. Beyond the bend in the road, there may be a well, a castle. There may be simply more road. I neither know nor ask. As long as I'm on the road before the bend, I simply look at the road before the bend. Since I can only see the road before the bend, it would do no good to look elsewhere or at what I cannot see. Let's just concentrate on where we are. There's beauty enough in being here, not elsewhere. If anyone's there beyond the bend in the road, let them worry about what's beyond the bend in the road. That is the road to them. If we arrive there, when we arrive, we'll know. Now we only know that we're not there. Here, there's only the road before the bend. And before the bend, there's the road with no bend at all. Just taking a moment together to offer the merit of our practice to all beings in the four directions, especially to those beings in this moment that really need the fruits of this practice. May we all be at peace and at ease. May we all feel safe and free from inner and outer harm. May we all be truly and deeply happy. May we be healthy. May we have a feeling of well-being that isn't bound by circumstances or conditions. As we come back into the space, I put the gallery view on. I'll take my pen off so you can see who's here at the end. We had a few people needing to leave, but here we are together. I don't think this is any coincidence. So just taking a look at the folks in the Sangha that are joining you today. And I put the link in the chat for Radiant, the 5-day invitation. It's an at-home retreat for yogis. So please join. If you haven't already signed up, please do. And I really would appreciate you sharing that with anyone you think would benefit. Because we are doing Radiant next week, there will not be a sit. Another reason to join Radiant. But we will resume our Tuesday morning meditation the week of the 14th, and you'll get an email about that. If you'd like to just mention in the chat anything that is resonating for you, anything that you're taking away as we say our goodbyes and we head off into our day. So good to remember each other today. Yeah, like we can just remember the support anytime we need it. There's so many birds chirping. It's like a beautiful spring day here in Long Beach, California. Yeah, you hear all the birds.
When the fire truck went down your street, it also went down my street.
Wow.
I thought that was weird.
Well, and mine too. So
yeah,
we're all connected that way.
Wow. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We know the feeling of home, and we know when we are not there, so that we may continue the search. Yeah. And the search itself is that longing for the fruits of practice. That longing is love. It's not like we ever get anywhere, right? We mistake the longing for like, okay, now there's a destination I need to get to. But it's a forever longing, longing for ease, longing for peace. And that longing actually bridges that gap. It's not a problem to be solved. Practice simply being, yes, Anna. Yeah. And letting whatever is being noticed fold into the practice. Yeah. And then remembering too, sometimes whatever we're noticing is overwhelming and we can't just fold it into the practice. Yeah. So we can either like take a moment away, right? Take a step away or get help, right? Like that's overwhelm is like, there's some things like I was talking about my terror, my fear, like I couldn't just let that fold into my practice. So always, or coming to group like this and practicing together. Great way to support us through how does this integrate with intention? Well, intention, good question, Alan. So intention, we can tie, I like to tie intention to awareness. Awareness is always here, but it's not always recognized. But when we're recognizing awareness, And awareness, knowing that awareness, imbued in awareness, we have these elements like compassion, love, wisdom, that, you know, for me, that's how it integrates with intention. Like I said earlier, you know, if we're just practicing awareness of being aware, and we're cultivating present moment awareness, being aware of when we fall asleep and then waking back up, inside of that is our wholesome intention. And then we can get even clearer about intention. You know, my intention is to be free from suffering, for example. But we don't try to be free from suffering. It's enough just to acknowledge our intention, just like it's enough to acknowledge the longing for peace. And then we let it go, knowing that just the acknowledgement, just the intention itself, declaring it. Yeah, may I be a light, like for me, it's like, may I be a channel of wisdom, compassion for myself and others today. I often say that before I teach. I let it go. I know it's like done. It's already done. So I hope that helps. Who said the quote about seeking to feel better as a sign of compassion? That is taken from Lion's Roar. So a lot of what I used for today was from Lion's Roar, which I love. I trust that source of information for anything about Buddhist practice, and Tricycle. Those are two places that I really trust and get a lot of information from. And today I took a lot also from John Wellwood in an interview he did with Tricycle. Yeah. All right. Blessings.